Crypto. Home.
Hello everyone, welcome to our big ticket interview for Superman. I'm Perri Nemiroff and I'm lucky enough to be sitting next to Nicholas Hoult, James Gunn, David Corenswet, and Rachel Brosnahan. Early congratulations on the movie. I cannot wait to see it.
Awesome. We're so happy you could be here, Perri.
I got many, many questions. I'm
Let's
about
do
to
it.
interrogate you right now, beginning with you, James. Big two-parter to start here.
Ooh.
Can you tell me a little bit about making sure that this movie feels like a full story all on its own, but also doesn't necessarily set up other films, but just tease up your growing DC film universe for success going forward?
Well, I mean, I think the most important thing is that this works as a movie by itself. It's a complete story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's an important part of the life of all three of the characters that these people play. That's by far the most important. At the same time, we're introducing a whole new world, which is a lot of fun. You know, we're in an alternate reality where superheroes have existed for 300 years, and now we're just picking up on the story of one particular superhero 3 years after he comes on the scene, who happens to be the most powerful metahuman of all time.
Powerful metahuman of all time, and one with a super cool suit, which is where I'm going to go next with you, David. I imagine you love the entire Superman suit, but I'm just a nerd for the details. So can you maybe pinpoint like a little detail, tiny aspect of it that you really appreciated and maybe informed how you played the character?
The cape really makes a big difference. It's the unsung hero of the suit. Most of the fittings don't include the cape, and it is literally the last thing to go on before you go on set. It just changes the silhouette and the way it flows behind you. It just adds gravitas to the thing, I think.
I have to imagine it's the coolest thing ever when you get to put on the suit and then show it not only to your co-stars, but your friends and family. So that was making me wonder, is there any particular reaction to you in the suit that, I don't know, is the most memorable or is the most fun to think about?
I sort of forgot that I was wearing the suit. I would wear it a lot, and so
Around your house, in the
yeah,
kitchen.
yeah. But I do remember the first day we did camera tests before we started shooting, coming on and seeing Nick and Rachel for the first time, and them seeing me for the first time. I must admit, I felt a little self-conscious. Like I hadn't gotten used to the suit yet. I hadn't filled the boots yet with my own sense of confidence. So to have them see me and sort of go like, oh, that looks pretty cool. Like that works pretty well. That meant a lot.
I don't like to describe myself as giddy, but I was giddy when I saw it. I was like grinning from ear to ear. I was blown away. I was very excited. It took me back to being a big kid.
I think one of the fun things also was every time kids came on set,
That was the best,
really
yeah.
is
Oh, good.
like Santa Claus, you know, and all the kids are just like, oh my gosh, it's Superman. And in a way, I think it's even more powerful than seeing somebody like in a Spider-Man or Batman costume or something, because it's him, he's there, and they really would get so excited. It was so fun to
Oh,
watch.
my son was in complete awe.
Yeah.
It was magic. To see his face seeing you, that was beautiful.
Yeah, although I remember your son's favorite character was Mr. Handsome.
Me, then Mr. Handsome. Yeah. No, it was Mr. Handsome. He kept on talking about Mr. Handsome the whole time. He would be laying in bed and then he'd be like, Dad, Mr. Handsome.
Mr. Handsome is Lex's, creature he created in a petri dish that drives around on this, flying platform.
Strange
that's
alien
the
looking creature.
ugliest, grossest creature in the world. And for some reason, also, I remember one of our producers, Chantal, her son also was just obsessed with Mr. Handsome.
He sticks with you.
He's pretty cool. He does
As a
stick
kid
with
who grew up and still loves everything genre, I have a feeling that would probably be a personal favorite as well. Yeah. David, I want to follow up briefly on something you had just said. You know, when you first put the suit on, you didn't feel like you filled the boots. Do you remember the specific moment when you had confidence and thought you filled the boots and you were Superman?
When you put the lifts in.
No lifts in the boots. No.
Just for the record.
Yeah, I think it was at the end of the first week of shooting, we shot part of the sequence that you see in the teaser trailer where the kaiju is blasting fire in Metropolis. And that was my first moment as Superman getting to check on people. There's a moment where I just check in with the bystanders and make sure that everybody's okay. And that felt like a very Superman moment where I sort of wasn't worried about myself or how I looked anymore or the fact that I was strung up by wires. I was just worried about, everybody else.
Definitely feels right in the finished product. I can't wait to see more, but in that trailer, just absolutely nailed it. James, we'll stick with the suit a little more with you now, because I love hearing about how these types of things evolve. So I am curious, what did you picture your Superman suit looking like day one, and how does it compare to the finished version everyone's going to see in the final film?
The only thing I knew is that I didn't want it to look too much like a wet T-shirt. You know, I didn't want to have muscles that were, built into the suit. I wanted to create, a world where metahumans actually existed, but that also they wore these uniforms for various reasons, and that it was, in a way, a uniform. So I just kind of went from there, working with Juliana, who did all my costumes for Guardians of the Galaxy, and just kind of taking it, bit by bit by bit by bit, until we ended up with the beautiful suit that we ended up with. And, also getting David's input, frankly. I mean, was, as we started to build it up around him, getting his ideas. One of the biggest questions was, were we going to have trunks, or we were going to, not have trunks? I talked to Zack Snyder, who was like, I tried a billion different versions with the trunks, and at the end of the day, I tried it, but I couldn't get there. And I was feeling exactly the same way. And Juliana and I talked, and she said, all right, well, I'm going to try, we'll do one version where we try both trunks and not trunks. I went in with David. He tried in not trunks, and he tried in trunks. And I still was going to go with not trunks. And then you said,
well, you wanted trunks in theory. You liked the idea of trunks.
Theoretically, I liked the idea of trunks because it's, Superman I grew up with.
But the problem is they look kind of silly. You were looking for a way to make them look cool, or you were looking for a function, an explanation for having them that would justify them.
Yeah.
And my thing was just maybe they're supposed to look a little silly. Maybe the reason he wears them is to look a little silly, basically to undermine how powerful he really is.
In this version of the DCU, everyone knows he's an alien. He shoots beams out of his eyes. He can blow things down with his breath. He's sort of this terrifying creature. And David saying that was like, but he really likes kids and human beings and people, and he wants kids not to be afraid of him. And so that was the thing that made me decide to keep the trunks.
I love touches like that, thoughts like that. It really
Yeah.
does contribute to filling out the world and making it feel as real as possible. Rachel, I'm coming your way now. I'm curious about your portrayal of Lois as a journalist, because journalism is a field that is evolving constantly. So what is something about her as a modern day journalist in this movie that maybe sets her apart from iterations of the character we've seen in the past?
One of the things we talked about a lot is her wardrobe and how this character's evolved so much from era to era. She's probably one of the characters that's undergone the most transformation as far as all the different comics go. She's ambitious, she's hungry, she's courageous and determined, and she'll do just about anything to get a great story. But today, to be a print journalist and to be able to do all of those things, it looks a little bit different. I think we prioritize comfort, in order to be able to do the job to the best of our ability. And so we talked a lot about how we could pay homage to all of the previous iterations of Lois and find something that felt both true to the character, but in a world that obviously has some heightened elements, how can we make this feel distinctly human and also modern? And so she wears flat shoes. That was also important to you. I feel like, David, we tried on a couple boots that made me about this much taller. And David was like, she's too tall.
Well, there are no lifts in my boots. My boots are flat to the ground.
I know, but you're still
You've
5 feet
got a foot
taller
on me
than
anyway.
her.
I mean, I'm already looking up David's
Yeah.
nose 95% of the time, but David was like, no, flat shoes, flatter. Can they get any flatter? Can she get any lower to the ground?
There is nothing more relatable to me than an on-screen journalist wearing flat
That's
shoes.
what I'm saying.
Always,
I think
always.
the other thing, I think also for Lois, and Clark and Jimmy too, the idea that, and Perri, and the idea that they're journalists
Yeah.
is a real part of the story. It's
Yeah.
a part of, what they conflict over at the beginning of the film in terms of how they see the ethics of journalism. It's part of what Lois does throughout the movie in trying to get to the truth. And so it isn't just a matter of she's, Lois Lane and her job as a journalist. It's actually a part of what we see her doing in the movie.
Ooh, I think I might build on that a little bit. I want to dig into the Clark and Lois relationship. Can you each tell me what it is about the other character that draws your character to them, but then I also want to know something that they have a difference of opinion on, something that, maybe threatens the foundation of their relationship, but could help them grow together?
It's a great question.
I've got an answer right off the bat.
Yeah, we talked about this a lot.
So
go ahead.
I think Superman really loves being Superman, and he loves that he has this ability to come in and save the day and be the protector and be a symbol of good and hope. But secretly, what he loves about Lois Lane is that she is his match. And she isn't taken by the symbolism and the visual and sort of the ideal of Superman. She asks the hard questions. So it's actually very frustrating for Superman because he wants to be this sort of pure symbol of good. And Lois keeps finding all these ways that he like screwed up a little bit, or he didn't quite, or was he really well-intentioned there, or did he think through the consequences of things there? And so it's very frustrating, but that frustration is this amazing, she's the only place he really gets that and actually is a little convinced by it and maybe, you know, wonders a little bit, questions himself a little bit. So that definitely draws him to her.
Yeah, I think she's somebody who sees around every corner. She's 10 steps ahead of everybody else. And it's what makes her brilliant, but I think can also make her have trust issues with the people in her real life. And I think one of the things that she loves so much about Superman is that he is so radically present. He's able to look at just what's in front of him. And I think she finds it both an incredibly frustrating and also really endearing quality. You know, there's definitely times where she's like, that's awesome that you saved that cat out of the tree, but over here, a building burned down and there were like 100 people inside of it. So can we just like have a little bit of perspective here? But yeah, they bring out the humanity in each other.
Each of them frustrates the other in that way that leads to sparks and romance and
passion, that chemistry. Yeah.
Sounds like an ideal combo. I like it. I can't wait to see more. Nick, with Lex, first I kind of want to lay the foundation a little bit. Can you tell me something about past iterations of the character that you wanted to hold tight to and honor in your portrayal, but then also something about the Lex we'll see in this movie that is uniquely your own?
There's so many great actors played Lex that I've adored their performances of, but we're all kind of using the same basis in the history of the comics to formulate the character. I think what's lucky for me is James's writing is so dynamic and fun, and the dialogue is so smart that you get this really rich world and characters to jump into. So I'm coming from a great place already with what's in the script and also the whole world that James has built up around that for this universe. I wasn't going in trying to do something particularly different or similar to what people had done before. I was just trying to be truthful to what I felt connected from the comics and those source materials to this script and this story, I think. Yeah, it wasn't a conscious decision to try and do something different. But I was also, the brilliant thing about working with James is he's very collaborative on ideas and trying things, but he's also very clear in what he wants. And he's also honest in like his opinion on things, where like he'll say like, this is working, this isn't, no, I need this, that doesn't work. So then you feel like you're in a great place as an actor with confidence to like try things and be guided by someone who really knows what they want and what they're doing.
Another burning question I have about your Lex is, so obviously super smart. I think I read somewhere else that in this movie...
No, not smart. Really dumb.
That's our twist.
Don't believe that.
I couldn't play smart, so we had to.
Super smart. And also I read in another interview that he's very imposing. So I have to imagine he goes into this movie with a lot of confidence. But I am curious, when he goes up against Superman, what do you think he fears is his greatest weakness in that fight?
Well, that's something that we did discuss, and you said earlier on, you know, because you're going up against someone who's all-powerful, it's like you need someone who does feel like they could potentially be a credible threat towards them. And I think that's, again, very smart in the writing, in the way that Lex is maneuvering in the chess pieces he has in play. We are weak, and that's what Superman shows us, is that we are. And I think that since he's shown up, Lex has tried to be, you know, all these things to humanity and this godlike savior character, and suddenly this person's taken all that adoration that he feels he deserved and also taken away, you know, their fate in some ways, and he thinks they deserve to control that.
I think Lex looks at Superman like a lot of, you know, artists, print artists especially, look at AI. I think he sees him as a threat to his livelihood and his legacy. He's a guy who's just built his whole life around the idea of legacy and ego. This guy comes in and he thinks he's a jerk. He's just a simple guy wearing a stupid costume that all of a sudden everybody loves and every woman loves, and all of the things that he cares about now are all going to him.
I wanted to end on this particular question because I'm a little obsessed with the idea, because making movies is hard, but I love highlighting the pride, the passion, and the joy that artists have on set when it comes to bringing these movies to screen for fans. So big question, but for each of you, can you isolate the single moment of making Superman that brought you the most joy as an artist?
You're probably the most fun to work with on a day-to-day basis, but my favorite stuff was the interview scene in the first 2 days, because it was simply a scene of these two actors just having a conversation, shot for 2 days, very long scene in the movie, but it is just about the way they see each other. It's the way they see the world. It's the way they see their relationship. It's the way they see journalism and the way they see ethics at the very core. And it brings in a lot of the things that make a relationship fiery and passionate because you're opposites. And it also brings in a lot of things that are going to push them apart. And seeing the movie and these actors and the characters work in such a human, real level that deconstruct superheroes not in the way of like making, oh, these superheroes that are powerful are now bad guys. It's more like really not deconstructing them. It's going deep with these superheroes in a way that Alan Moore did, or and to see their portrayal in those first 2 days of shooting and know that in 2 days we shot 10% of the movie was really, truly a joy, And then I had to spend another 5 months hanging you from wires and trying to get shots.
Yeah, that must have been so hard for you.
You stole my answer, though. I think it was the same. Those were my first 2 days on set, and it was such a blast. I didn't think that a superhero movie, in theory, could feel like that, could feel so human and grounded, and we had so much space under James's watchful eye to play and try things and really discover the core of these characters. It was the perfect scene to start with because we really got to figure out who they are in these 2 days and then just built on that foundation for the rest of the movie. And it was just, it was early in the process, but it was really different, I think, from everything else you guys had been shooting at that point. And there was just this energy from the crew. It was so much fun. It was one of the most fun days I've ever had on set.
It was a great way to start a big action-packed movie, is just 2 days in a room, almost like doing a play. For me, it was definitely Nick.
Thank you.
There are
I was going to say me.
two moments that come to mind. Well, the nice thing is we had read that scene before, and then we had worked on the scene quite a bit before we shot it, and then we spent 2 days shooting it. That was sort of my comfort blanket of like, okay, I know what I'm doing here, like, this is going to work. When Nick was cast, I thought, this is one of the best things that will happen to this movie, is getting Nick Hoult as Lex Luthor. The first time I saw him at his camera test walk out of the shadows in costume, it was like something ripped out of the page of the comics. The way he held his hand. It was so immediate. I'm sure he was still figuring stuff out, but he didn't show any of that. And it was quite intimidating. I didn't feel like I had figured stuff out at that point. So it was this amazing challenge in character of, I'm gonna have to go up against this guy and match him. At the same time, I already knew at that point that he was a very lovely man and was very supportive and wanted me to do well. And so there was no rivalry off screen. But then the first time we did go up against each other, nose to nose in a scene, I tried so hard to match you or to best you in some way, and I just couldn't.
Yeah, you could.
It was just, I felt like I couldn't, and it was amazing because in that scene, I don't quite win. I don't come out the winner of that scene. It's just great to be across from a scene partner who you can feel such affection for and so supported by off camera, and so completely cut down at the knees on camera.
Wow.
Description.
Phew, a little warm and fuzzy himself. That scene was really fun. That scene in the office. You guys, wow. One of the moments, it was, all of those things were mutual and what I felt as well. But there's one moment, again, just going back to, there's a scene where David flies into this set that we had built. I remembered, obviously there's loads of things going through your head and you're doing the scene and you're getting ready for that. And there was a moment where I just looked up and it was you in the suit flying into this set, and I was like, that was just me that was like, this is like the magic of movies, this is the magic of my childhood, this is all the things I would hope it would feel like. The person I would hope playing Superman, he embodies the character perfectly. So there was all this encapsulated, and I was just kind of standing there dumbly, grinning, being like, oh, this is magic to be here. And then I turned around and everyone else in the room was kind of lit by the sunlight behind you or whatever, and they all had kind of that expression on their faces as well, of just this this movie magic and real life magic of what it was, and that was really special to be there for that.
One of the greatest joys of being someone who sits in a movie theater and feels that magic at that stage of the process is hearing that the people who make the movies have those same kind of experiences. I love it. I'm going to say an early congratulations on your movie. Thank you for chatting with me today. And to everybody out there, Superman is in theaters on July 11th. Tickets are on sale now.